Remove that witch out of your church. Remove that witch out of your church. What's going on, family? Shabbat Shalom. I pray y'all are having a wonderful, blessed day as we all top give the Most High all the honor, the glory, and definitely all praise and worship. Listen, very important message here that a lot in Christianity won't accept. We've been taught growing up that the church is the hospital, right? And I remember growing up, you would see some of everything coming to church, whether it was the prostitute off the street, the drug dealer, sinners, drunks, etc., etc. And we would always talk about how we're supposed to welcome everybody in. And I'm talking about in Christianity. But when you rightly divide the word, the question was asked to me once again, can you really remove people out of the church? Is that biblical? Is it biblical? Of course. The problem is you don't want to talk about what you're reading about, if you're reading about it. Because we talk about this a lot on here when Paul heard about what was going on and that man was sleeping around with his father's wife, stepmother, we could say. And it got so bad. And the congregation wasn't doing nothing about it, of course. The leaders wasn't doing nothing about it. And Paul had that man removed out of the church, hand that man over to Satan. It's all in the scripture. We done many Bible studies about it. Hand him over to Satan, not that he would lose his soul and go to hell, but make an example out of him. Protect the church also. And as a pastor, you don't let nobody attack like that. Now, I know we all have to learn out here. I had to learn the hard way. A lot of y'all learn the hard way, and we forever learning. And I used to hear it all the time. You can't kick nobody out of church. You can't do that. God don't like that. And you read that same Bible, hand him over to Satan. Get him out, get him away from the congregation. Now ask yourself this question. When you see these witches in the church, see, I applaud the pastors that have that true spiritual discernment and they can catch that they clock their witchcraft coming a mile away. Because if you think it's not in the church, oh, yes, it is. It never left, really. And I'm guilty in the past of not catching witchcraft. I have no problem admitting that. Because when you learn and then you grow a relationship with people, and I'm nobody's, I don't claim to be nobody's pastor, no way. Y'all know where I'm at the house, on here with y'all. But that discernment, sometimes we miss it because of how we have grown a relationship with people. And you may say, well, this person ain't like that. They really ain't no witch. And that's those feelings that you got to get past. One of the hardest things for me to do was to leave the church I was at for 15 years because of the people who were the ones that the Most High told me to go there for. But then trying to stay in there with the ones that you know they full of witchcraft. And that's what makes it difficult at times to leave. But then you got to realize a lot of pastors are not talking about witchcraft. I applaud the ones that do. A lot of pastors will not remove that mess. They won't even confront it. They won't rebuke it. And here's the sad thing. It's being done in the open. And if it's done in the open, it needs to be an open rebuke to make an example out of that person. So the next one will think twice about doing it. Just like Paul had to rebuke Peter in front of everybody. That was an open rebuke. He was acting wishy-washy. We know the story. Paul got on Peter. Peter 1 minute hanging with the Gentiles, and the next minute, the circumcision showed up. He playing both sides. Paul open rebuked him. And there's musicians that's doing stuff in the open, preachers doing stuff in the open, deacons, secretaries, first ladies, whatever you want to call the titles, and it has to be addressed. But the problem that comes into play is when you start addressing a lot of this witchcraft, especially witchcraft, they think you're doing something wrong. Witchcraft is heavy. And this is why you don't want everybody laying hands on you. You don't want everybody praying for you. And you better watch these prophets. It's all in your face a lot of times. But how can you recognize witchcraft if you ain't never been taught witchcraft? And a lot of people may not know it ignorantly, which means you ain't been taught. You don't know. Not stupidity, but ignorantly. And then some may be doing it. Hey, man, you just being stupid. Now, you know that woman a witch. But she ain't dressed up with no black on. And now she dressed up in a nice dress. She got her hair done. She look real good, don't you? That's a witch. Look at her behavior. Look at her actions. But you don't want to say that's a witch because you know her. Or that's your family member. Or that first lady may even be a witch. See, this stuff, once again, when it's not addressed, it's just, it gets worse and worse and worse. But you got to realize a real pastor with discernment, they'll stop that witchcraft because, hey, not in her. And it'll get quiet in there. You're not going to bring that in here. I already know what you're trying to do. Kind of like, it reminds me of, I don't know if this old video is still on here. It's an old video with Bishop G.E. Patterson. He's rebuking this man I guess it was some kind of conference they had a while back. And the brother had came up in the church. He was a fake prophet. And he had already prophesied, telling everybody such was going to be dead and he open rebuked that man right then and right there. He said, ain't that same brother that told us we was going to be dead? Yeah. He confronted that man in front of the whole congregation. See, you don't have a lot of pastors like that no more. I'm not saying it's not any, but you don't have a lot out here that's going to open rebuke that mess. And as a pastor, you protecting, you overseeing. And when you recognize it's witches, one of the greatest that I ever heard teachings on this was Pastor Stephen Darby of Destiny's Ministries. Man, witches. Your problem is witches and witches in the church. And that's the first pastor I ever seen online, especially addressing witches in the church. And he got so many dynamic sermons, made the most out of the rest of his soul. But you don't see that too often. And that's why with Destiny Ministries, Pastor Stephen Darby, he'll address a whole lot of topics that the churches want. And it catch your attention because, okay, here's somebody now talking about witches and warlocks. You don't hear that. I've never heard it growing up. And I would hear older people say, well, that's a witch, right? That lady ain't nothing but a witch. Oh, you will go over some older people's house, it's witchcraft. You can tell about what's hanging on the porch. You can tell about the sage. You can tell about the smell. And I didn't know what it was back then. But now I know, and I remember everybody be scared talking about, oh man, that's a witch right there. And they wasn't dressed up like a witch, but you could see the witchcraft. But I didn't know what witchcraft was when I was growing up. It took me getting older to find it out because again, see, Christianity, it softens down so many teachings and they just try to make everything seem so likable. In reality, you're supposed to be casting this out, casting that out, and talking about these demons, talking about the witchcraft, talking about how to get delivered and getting delivered. But if you look in Christianity, I hate to say it like this, but most people stay the same. Like I said in many videos, they don't want the homosexual to get delivered. He's good for business. They leave the crooked trustee in place. They getting broke off. Hey, this man, pastor getting this, and don't nobody want to say nothing. You the enemy when you say something, there's something wrong with that. So I just wanted to come stop through this morning. And yes, my baby girl is back home. Hallelujah. I thank y'all for the prayers. Baby girl is at the hospital. She's back home. She's back to normal. She just got to get her strength back. And I'm always praying for y'all. Y'all know that. We brought her home last night at it ran about 1:30, 1:25, something like that, 1:20. She came right in the door because she hadn't had nothing to eat. She been eating, she been spitting up for pretty much 5 days. She hadn't had nothing in her system. And we had to make sure she wasn't going to fall into that, seizure mode like she had before by being dehydrated and stuff. So we had to go on and get out there to the hospital. But she's back. They ran them fluids in her. That's the only way we could get her to eat, man, because she couldn't eat nothing, couldn't hold down nothing. So, it didn't matter what we tried. She could not. It's like she had a blockage inside of her that it didn't matter what you put in her, immediately it comes up. And they said there was some kind of flu bug or whatever you want to call it. So, but we know what time it is out here. Satan is trying to attack our babies too. We're going to keep on praying. We're going to keep on moving forward. But I wanted to tell y'all that before I close out here. Thank y'all for those prayers. It's been long. It's been a rough spring break. It's been a rough one. So those who know, y'all know what I'm talking about. So I'm just grateful to still be here in the land of the living and with a focused mindset and just, hey, trusting in the Most High, because it's going to get worse before it gets better. And on that note, I love y'all and have a wonderful, blessed day. Shalom.